everyone, and this is Janart podcast. Today we are having Kamila. She's a postdoc at MIT, and we'll have interesting conversation about women in STEM and about benefits of doing a postdoc at MIT. And I want to start my question with, dear Kamila, what kind of background you should have to do a postdoc at MIT?
Mm-hmm. Hi, Akjana. Thank you for inviting me to the podcast. It's really nice to be here. To become a postdoc, I guess it's a long story, but I mean, mainly from the academic side, you need to have a PhD, obviously, because postdoc is something you do after your PhD. But then there are, I guess, many ways how to reach that stage. So I can tell about my own way, how I became a postdoc, being a Kazakh person, I guess. So I was born in Almaty, and I lived there all my life until I finished high school. So I went to physics and math high school, number 134 school. I guess many people in Almaty know it. And then actually I was focusing more on math and programming in high school. That was the focus of the school. But then actually I really liked biology, so I wasn't sure where exactly I'll go. So when I went for undergrad, I was thinking between engineering and biology. And then I actually did start as a engineering student at Nazarbayev University in Astana. But then after 1 year, I had to choose if I'm going to the engineering school or science and technology school. I guess people from this university will know what I'm talking about. Eventually I chose to do biology. I didn't want to do biology, actually. I wanted to do something more like bioengineering. But at that time, we didn't have this option there. So I just went for biology. And then after I finished undergrad, I was applying for grad schools. And then eventually I went to Japan to do PhD in Okinawa. It's a very beautiful island. And I did my PhD there in nucleic acid chemistry and engineering. That's a long name, but basically I think the research direction was kind of chemical biology, molecular biology, and the general field is synthetic biology. It's a long topic. Maybe I'll explain it later. And then after I finished my PhD, I wanted to continue this field, but slightly more towards, I guess, biological side, because my previous lab was still slightly more into chemistry. And then this lab where I am right now is one of the kind of leaders in the field, one of the labs that really established this field. After I finished my postdoc, I was just applying for different labs that I found interesting. And it was very fortunate that at the time, my current lab here at MIT had an open position and had a project that looked really perfect for me. So I came here.
Amazing story, Kamila. I have a question. For example, did you have any sort of expectation versus reality moment while you're working at MIT?
I have actually many stories like this about MIT. So I think my main expectation was that it will be very stressful, that I'll have to work long hours. And I think overall, because I did my PhD in Japan, the image is that in Japan people have to do a lot of zangyo, which means overtime working. And then there is this culture of not leaving before your boss and then staying very late. Fortunately, the university where I was at and my lab in particular didn't have that culture, so it was kind of very free. I mean, we had some time where we all worked together in the office, but it wasn't enforced. It wasn't stressful, I'd say. But then I felt like when I go to MIT, that will change. I felt like just out of peer pressure, I will have to be in the lab all the time, and that just the amount of work will be unbearable. And then when I'll go, it'll be difficult because I'll have deadlines every day, and then I'll just have very short time to understand things. And that's sort of the main struggle will be just constantly learning new things and meeting deadlines. But in reality, the struggle was very different. It was still difficult, but in a different way. So I think the main difficulty for me was independence, because in my PhD, I was in a very organized, very systematic lab, and then whatever I did was already kind of decided and agreed upon. So basically, I always knew what to do, I knew exactly what to do, and I just had to do it. And then when I came here, I think I became postdoc, which is a more independent job, more like creative job, but also I think American style and our lab style is very different. So the main struggle was actually just knowing what to do, because when I arrived, I just received the grant proposal, and that's it. So I just had like this idea that they wrote down with some approximate plan of how to do it, but then I didn't know anything else. Like I didn't know like how to do all those things that are written in the grant, and I didn't know even where to start. So it was just, I guess, very overwhelming in the beginning, just to know that now it's your responsibility, and then it's just up to you to decide what to do, and to really lead this project, and then like talk to people and ask them for help and really like lead the project. I think that was a main challenge. So this was really like expectation versus reality. So I thought it'll be tiring because people will tell me to do a lot of things, but in reality it was difficult because I just didn't know what to do.
Interesting. You told me right now about the work culture differences in Japan and USA, right?
Yeah.
So we know that being a woman in STEM is a little bit hard. There's a lot of stereotypes about, oh my god, if you're a woman in STEM, you're probably very like genius woman, because it's probably like very male dominated. What about you? Did you feel that, oh my god, like I have some sort of male dominated industry in your lab, or you still feel that, oh my god, it's just a stereotypical thoughts, everything is just very fair, equal? What about this one, like women in STEM, how is it?
Yeah, do you want me to start with overall this field, or like first say like differences between US and Japan, or
Yeah, you can just tell, for example, what is it to be a woman in STEM in Japan and woman in STEM
okay.
in USA?
Yeah, I think these experiences are very different. So overall, even if I compare the two of them, I think the common thing between two of them, and I guess maybe everywhere, is that I don't think it's difficult to be a woman in STEM overall. I mean, there are definitely some things that are, say, like maybe more difficult for a woman than for a man, but then women also definitely have some strength that men lack. So I guess it's always kind of a trade-off. So like it will be difficult in some ways, but it will also be easier in some other ways. So yeah, I think say in Japan, overall the culture is more kind of mild, more, I would say, like more agreeable, that people are basically more likely to agree with you. And then it just feels like overall for people it is kind of more natural behavior to like listen to someone and to agree with them. So for me it was easier because I felt that everyone is so kind of quiet, respectful, and polite, and like always thinks about the general interest of the community, that whenever I had some idea, I could easily voice it, I could easily say it, what I want, and then it was up to them to decide if they want to implement or not. And I guess like people complain often that Japanese society often doesn't want to implement any change, but I say like for me it was kind of rewarding in a way to say anything, because I felt that I will say something and I'll be heard, and it's very easy to speak up because most people are like ready to listen. Whereas here in the US, I feel the culture is very different in terms of, I guess, like just overall kind of default state of the people, I'd say. So people often, everyone has their own opinion, and then overall people don't want to be told to do things. So although I think eventually suggestions are implemented easier, but originally sometimes it's hard to speak up because it feels like the culture here is more masculine. Like there will be a lot of people who would say things kind of in a more confident way, or louder, or like just kind of have a stronger opinion. And then sometimes it's just hard to make your voice heard because you feel like you have to really compete with this basically like confidence level, I'd say, or yeah, just a little loudness. So I think that's why I feel like it's more difficult for a woman in STEM, at least for me here, because I feel this I feel like it's just more difficult to speak up. It's more like a lot of things depend on how loudly or like with how much confidence you say something. And I think that's why a lot of women struggle.
Interesting. And I also think I'm also curious about what is the name 3 benefits of doing a postdoc at MIT.
Oh, okay.
Because I think that right now it's pretty stressful job that you're doing right now, and I'm just curious. For example, is there any huge benefits that you can name to us of doing a postdoc at MIT?
Yeah, I think I can definitely name a few. Let me think if I can make it 3. So yeah, I think okay, I'll just start it and see how many I can list. So yeah, I think the first one, which I think is the main one, is just the amount of resources, because you are at MIT, where there are a lot of other teams working on different things, and there's also, you are in Cambridge or in Boston area, where there are lots of like biotech companies, lots of tech companies, lots of educational institutions. Overall, there is like high concentration of talent. So there are a lot of people who work on similar things, and there's just a lot of equipment and like ecosystem as well. So this is definitely a very, very strong point, that just kind of by being here, you're already learning something every day, because you're just surrounded by people and like companies that continuously work in this like science technology direction. So that is definitely a plus. So basically it takes less effort to learn something because it's more easily accessible. And you can always start collaborations, you can always ask people. And then some things that are, I guess, like you have to learn somewhere else, here are just general knowledge. Like if you want to do something, some technique, for example, even in the lab, there are like 20 labs around you that do the same thing. So everyone knows how to do it. So you don't even need to learn, you just ask someone, and then you just passively learn all these things. So I think that's the biggest benefit. I guess the second benefit is that, well, I don't know if it's my lab or maybe it's American funding system, but I feel like it gives more freedom for experiments. So I feel that I can really, if I come up with something, it's relatively easy to implement it. I don't have to wait for approvals, or I don't have to kind of limit the scale of my idea based on resources of like, or some technical difficulties. I can really basically implement almost any idea that I can come up with. And also overall I have the freedom to do it. I don't have like kind of lots of like daily unnecessary tasks that would eat my time. I think everything is very well established. And then the third benefit, I guess it's just very empowering somehow. I mean, to work here, although I think that a lot of institutions are very amazing, and like there are talented people everywhere, but just because of the name, sometimes you would get better opportunities because people know that it's MIT, and then they like more readily will approach you because they think, okay, like that's some brand that I recognize, so I trust them. Although I don't entirely agree with this idea, but yeah, it definitely gives you some advantage.
You told about MIT's brand, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty strong brand. Everyone knows about MIT, Harvard, everywhere. So do you think that this brand name is a little bit overrated, or you think everything is on point?
Yeah, I think definitely MIT is a brand, and for a reason. You can't have a like university or institution that's famous worldwide without actually like real things backing up this fact. So MIT does have like really amazing ecosystem for research. They attract all these talented students and all the talented people. So definitely it's deserved. And this name does mean something for sure. But I think, sometimes I find it unfair that there are many other institutions who do equally amazing work, but then just because they haven't earned their name yet, or I guess like in different parts of the world, then they will get less recognition because they come from a less famous brand. So yeah, although I think that MIT deserves to have a good brand, but I feel like many other places deserve equally like famous brand name.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So you are in Boston for 1 year, right? So did you have any interesting stories here in Boston, or maybe at work, that you can share with us?
Yeah, don't even know where to start. I mean, there are a lot of things that happen. I think I don't know, just like some interesting things that happen here are because this place is has like lots of things, but then it's also very compact. So just the scale of this town is very nice. Like most places in the center are walking distance, so you can really just like walk to most places that like you're interested in. So like if you're going from university to downtown, it's kind of walking distance. So yeah, that is really nice. And then because of that, I think it's interesting that you can sometimes meet very different people like in the same day. So like you can just like walk on the street and then run into some like your friend from Kazakhstan. Then like in 10 minutes you can run into your like former colleague from somewhere else. And actually it did happen to me that like the first day that I went to work, I just randomly ran on the street into my former colleague. Like there was a postdoc that I was working with in Okinawa, and I knew that he was here at MIT, and I was planning to meet him, but I didn't think that Cambridge is so small that I'll just run into him on the street on the first day. And so, you know, like last time I saw him in Okinawa, and it's such a different place. It's a small island, and then suddenly like I'm walking in Cambridge on my first day, and I'm like, oh, hey, Kay, what are you doing here? So yeah, it is interesting that here, like you always run into people, you know, and I think it's nice that after a short time, even you will have enough like acquaintances that you will just run into on the street.
Interesting story. Yeah, Boston is a pretty small place. Let's say everyone knows everyone. So basically, for example, I know that you are doing your research for 7 years, right, in biology right now.
Yes.
7 years. So I have a question. From where do you find this dedication and this passion towards the biology, and how did you find that? Oh my God, biology is really my thing.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I think so. First, I liked biology just because I liked like animals and insects and all the things, and I like to read books about like animals and vets. There are two English writers that I really liked. One is a vet and one is a zookeeper. So for both of them, kind of, I guess, I discovered my fascination with biology through their books. So it was always interesting, but I didn't think it can be a job. I just thought, oh, I like to read these books. And then when I was in high school, I never thought that I can actually become a biologist. I just felt like, okay, like people in books go around the world and like collect animals and put them in a zoo, but I didn't think that. I mean, like you don't see these people in real life, so I didn't think it's possible. And then I knew that, for example, David Attenborough is a like famous what is the word in English? But yeah, anyway, like he has a TV show on BBC, and then he's famous worldwide. I know these people existed, but I didn't think it's ever possible to be there because it's a different world. Like it's like it's on TV. But then I think I just like biology in general, so I thought I didn't think exactly what I want to do. I just thought, okay, biology is interesting, so maybe I should go in that direction. I'll just try and see. And I think it was like this for a long time. Just like, okay, I like biology more than other things. Okay, I'll just go in that direction. And then only after maybe I finished undergrad, I realized that, okay, there are some things you can do with biology. So I still didn't find it realistic to go and like become a vet or like go around the world and start my own zoo. That they are dying from plague. So plague, the same disease that wiped out a lot of humanity in the Middle Ages in Europe. So yeah, they have like a pandemic of plague, and we want to save this ferret. So one of my projects is to make the vaccine for these ferrets so that they don't die from plague, and so that we can preserve the species. So yeah, it's kind of like two very different projects, but what's similar between them is that I'm making this like genetic parts where I'm trying to find a way to keep the desired level of gene expression. Yeah, maybe it was a lot of complicated words, but I hope some people will understand. Yeah.
I hope they are 100%. So this is my last question. Thank you for all your answers, Kamila. So my last question is there any point in your life where you will be very satisfied with your life and with your career, and you can tell yourself, oh my God, Kamila, I'm so proud of myself? Is there any point in your life?
Yeah, I think when you started this question, I was like, is there any point in your life? And I like for a second had existential question. Is there any point in my life? Well, yeah, I mean, I hope there is a point. But yeah, I mean, if there is any point where I will know that I've achieved something, I think there are maybe two main parts of my life. I think one is kind of work related and one is like personal related. So I think I would be happy if in any of these two directions the following happens. So for the academic one, I think I'll be happy if, okay, not necessarily academic, but like work side. I'll be happy if there's someone in the world who benefits from my work, and then will be happy to use something that I worked on, not because say like they're my friend or like they're my family and they just want to make me feel better, but like if they genuinely use some tool or some whatever like technique or some knowledge that I brought to this world and it's useful for them, and then they're really appreciative of it and it helps someone, then I think I'll feel like, okay, I've achieved something. And then I think for the personal side, I think family is very important. So I want to raise my kids, in future kids, in such a way that, like at some point they'll become like I'll transfer to them some values, and they'll become independent, and so that I can see that they did something very good, like they made some very good choice, or like they did a very good thing, like by their own will without my supervision, and then I'll feel like, okay, I really taught them something, how to live in this world and kind of live this life happily. I think will be another kind of happy moment for me.
Totally understand. Thank you so much, Kamila. It was very nice having you in this Janart podcast. I hope that our listeners and viewers liked it. Thank you so much and have a good day.
Thank you, Jana.